Hello, welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. Be very welcome to our live number 3 of the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, where we're going to dive in depth into 15 eyesight symptoms from the point of view of their emotional root, their emotional cause. If you have been around for the previous, from the all the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, and especially if you've been watching video number 3, you see how what I'm talking about will make sense. We're going to dive deeper into what we've been talking in video number 3, and we will take time to answer questions that we've been getting on this topic. Now, it may be that you are new and you don't know what we are talking about here. So if that's the case, make sure that you register to the 4-part free masterclass through this link, clearsightmethod.com/wakeupyoureyes. And as more and more people are getting in and joining this live, besides welcoming you again, we would also like to know where you are participating from. It's always nice to see where we have participants. Since we started measuring the effects of this free masterclass, we started measuring in 2019, although we've been doing this for a much longer time. It's been almost 4 million people taking this workshop. So we would like to see also from what corners of the world you are participating. Yay, so Ching Ching is participating again from Ohio. Be very, very welcome. Okay, SS is there from Canada. Be welcome as well. Okay, so we are doing this workshop, this masterclass, that has 4 parts, and we are in the middle of the 3rd lesson, yes? So there's been a few lessons before. There's going to be a little bit left. We're past the Ecuador, past the half the course. But it would be important for you to know that what we're sharing in the frame of this free masterclass is the equivalent of a weekend of vision improvement. Like in the end, it will be about 12 hours of classes. So because we're doing it online, we like to spread it around, oops, I got the wrong document here. We like to spread it around a number of days so that it's more comfortable for you. So you probably watched video number 1 that was released on April 19th. We did the live on April 21st. Lesson number 2 was released in April 22nd. We did a live on April 24th. Video number 3, or lesson number 3, started a couple days ago when we released the video on April 25th. And today is the corresponding live. And what have we been talking about in case you're new to this live? Well, in lesson number 1, we talked about why and how it's possible to improve your eyesight naturally, and the discoveries of the pioneering scientist who talked about natural vision improvement, Dr. William Bates, over 100 years ago. And we talked about the importance of muscle groups in focusing. And then in live number 1, we shared 15 plus exercises, techniques, tips, and advice to follow if you want to take care of your eyes and improve your eyesight naturally. Then in lesson number 2, we addressed false limiting beliefs that people have about the possibility of improving eyesight and vision. We talked about those, and among them, there is the sun, seeing the sun as dangerous and sunlight as dangerous. And while you do need to watch out at certain times and in certain circumstances, sunlight can be dangerous, there's many other ways in which you can actually harness the power of sunlight to improve your eyesight and vision. And we gave you the second, well, we had given you the palming technique along with many other techniques and exercises. And with lesson number 2, we gave you the sunning technique and some variations around sunning. And we also taught you in the live the instant focusing technique. We told you about the pinhole glasses that can be a very good substitute for sunglasses in many occasions, and for actually prescription and reading glasses in many occasions too, that are a fantastic training tool. And in lesson number 3, we talked about the importance of emotions for eyesight and vision, and how, if you have developed an eyesight symptom, it is likely that along with 88% of the population, that you develop that problem in a moment in your life where you were going through some situation that you were living with stress and tension, and that it generated some emotions that maybe you didn't have the time to process and integrate. And today we're going to go deeper into this topic, and we're going to explain from this point of view 15 eyesight symptoms, the most common of them. Okay, so then tomorrow we're going to a free video number 4, in which we're going to talk about the 6 scientifically proven levels or angles from which you can look at your eyesight and vision, and you can leverage that to improve your vision, to see better and better. We've talked about some at the physical level and some at the energy and light and energy level, and we're talking now about the emotional level, but there's other levels that you may want to discover so that you can use them in your advantage to see better and better. So that's what's going to come with tomorrow's video. And then on April the 30th, this coming Sunday, this time for the live, we will actually gather in our Zoom room. So we're going to be in an intimate setting with probably former participants of the ClearSight Method, and undoubtedly with the team who's going to be there, at least part of the team of the ClearSight Method. So you're going to be able to discover how it is to be part of one of our groups and the platform, and plenty of things like that. We want to bring you home, to invite you for coffee and show you around. Okay, so let's see for today. So for today, also before I dive into the topic, I would like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, if you are not part, we also share information all year long. So you may want to subscribe, youtube.com/ClearSight Method, and also to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/ClearSight Method. And if you're finding what we've been sharing interesting, let me invite you to share these links and this information with your family. Maybe you can take the weekend to catch up and tell them a bit about what you're learning. And if they want to follow, they can also use our links to be part. And so I would like to know if you've been following, the course. If you haven't been following, you probably want to register, but if you've been following the course, I would like to know what has already changed. If you've been palming, if you've been practicing the 15 pieces of advice that we gave you, and sunning and the variations, and you've been changing your relationship with the sun, if you've applied the instant focusing technique, the symptom translation technique, what has changed in the sensations of your eyes? And what has changed also in your experience of seeing? Do you notice that your eyes are more relaxed or more moist, or that you're moving them more, or you're blinking more? Do you notice that it feels different when you look far away and when you look near? That it's actually relaxing to look far away? Are you noticing changes in how you see light or colors or textures or details? How you see distance or perspective, or the 3D, that 3 dimensions of things? Are you noticing maybe that you can read smaller print, or that you can read further away? So things like that would be interesting to see what's happening for you. Okay, I see that there's people from the Netherlands, and Helen from England. Okay, and from Toronto. Be very, very welcome. Okay, and SS is saying, thank you. I couldn't attend the last live session on sunning, and when I tried the kaleidoscope, I noticed that I could see veins on the side corners and upper lower parts of the eyes. That's interesting, huh? Yes, this can happen, and it's interesting to observe it, and I'm very happy that you are practicing sunning. So you were noticing it with the normal. Oh, it wasn't noticeable with the normal sunning. It's okay. These things do happen. Okay, Juliet from the Virgin Islands, so nice to have you around. Okay, and you've been sunning, looking near and far in the distance and blinking. Good for you. Okay, Phyllis is saying the confidence is improving, and that is necessary since I have astigmatism. We'll talk about these things in a moment. Okay, ching ching. Today we woke up and took a walk in the morning in the golden hour. Very well. The light is very soothing that early. Yay, might have to make a habit of it. Great idea. And if you do it with your family, then it's beautiful. Okay, Rhonda, hello from Baltimore. Hi, Rhonda. Very nice to have you around. And Helen, I am consciously moving your eyes more. I can see my PC screen without glasses. Yay! Beautiful achievement. Woohoo! And less reading or typing. Okay. But it's early days. I have followed palming and sunning also. Okay. So if you're already noticing differences with just a few days of practice, imagine what you can achieve if you keep practicing, if you make it a habit. Or even better, if you go into a more in-depth coaching program, the advanced program of the ClearSight Method, and we can help you and teach you a lot more things, and we take you by the hand for several weeks so that you can do this. Well, that's what's going to happen from tomorrow on, in case I hadn't announced it yet. So tomorrow, we're opening the registration to the ClearSight Method, the advanced program. So this is a free training, and the ClearSight Method is a paying course, advanced program. And so there's going to be a little bit of overlap between the free course and the starting of the advanced program. And if you're interested to check it out, tomorrow we're going to explain also what you need to do, how you can register, what's going to be in the course, etc. So pay attention to your emails and announcements in case you're interested in joining. Okay, so would you like to learn some more today? Would you like to go in depth into the emotions that are behind those 15 most common eyesight symptoms? And we'll do our best to answer your questions about the things that you may have at this moment. And by the way, while we dive into that, I would also like to say hi and thank Sarah, Daniel, and Natalie. Let's be like this. So they're all, so Daniel is a vision educator, and he's part of the team of Volver a Ver Claro, the ClearSight Method. He's also doing a PhD in lifestyle medicine. And Sarah is also part of the team. And Natalie and Sarah are just finishing their training to be vision educators. So it's very nice to have you all here. There's also Rosa and Therese around, but they're behind the scenes. So I thank them for being here and say hi, but I won't show their faces. Oh, okay, you can hear her. Therese. Rosa is like, no, not today. But if you hang out, if you hang out with us, if you stay with us on Sunday, you'll probably get to meet them and see their faces and some other people from the team. So Natalie, Sarah, Daniel, if you at some point in time want to also join to talk about what's your experience with this emotional level and how handling emotions had a positive impact in your eyesight and vision in your own personal process, you're welcome to do so. So, and in the meantime, for everyone who's watching, they're going to be answering your questions in the chat if you have some, as I'm giving the explanation and we don't get to your symptom yet, okay? Yeah, so thank you all for being here. Okay, so I'll continue and maybe later you can jump in the conversation. Okay, very good. Let me get back then and let me have a look at the comments. Okay. Okay, so Phyllis is saying also, I am more aware of looking at details and consciously trying to work up to 2 hours of being in the dark at night without lights. Yay! That will certainly pay with good effects in the mid and long run. Very, very good. Okay, so to talk about the impact of emotions in eyesight, we actually need to talk about research. So I'm going to give you a few ideas about the history of the development of this research line, this research topic, and I'm going to give you some references also. Let me see. So this topic has been studied, the impact of emotions, on eyesight, as early as in the late 50s. Charles Kelly did a PhD in the New School for Social Research in collaboration with the University of Columbia in New York, not in South America, Columbia, sorry. Forgive my pronunciation. And he did his PhD on the psychological factors in myopia. We'll talk about this more in depth in a minute, because after the founding research of Dr. William Bates, he was the first probably to develop this line of research into emotions, okay? There's been others as well, and we'll talk about some of them. But so you know, that same year, Jack Fox, the University of California in Los Angeles at UCLA, also in 1958, finished a PhD, defended a PhD on functional factors in myopia. So there was research over there. Now, Charles Kelly, again, the same one we just mentioned before, in 1971, so some 13 years later, he published a book called New Techniques of Vision Improvement, where he extended and expanded the research that he had done on emotions and myopia. Well, he went into other symptoms. He looked into other symptoms. A few years after that, there was also another PhD on a psychological approach to the improvement of myopia, nearsightedness, that was done at the Carrier at the University of Colorado in 1976. And we've done research, we've had research, of course, more current than that. Let me give you another example. This is an interesting one, a very funny one. So there's this article published in the Journal of the American Optometric Association in 1996, talking about visual function in multiple personality disorder. So I'll give you the main idea of this article. So, you know, people who have multiple personality disorders have different personalities at different times, right? I'm going to talk about it in a very black and white kind of way, in a very archetypical kind of way. Let's say that a person sometimes believes that they're Napoleon, and then sometimes believe that they're a saint, right? Saint Therese. Okay, so when they have the personality of Napoleon and when they have the personality of Saint Therese, they actually don't have the same visual functioning. They could have myopia and be nearsighted when they're Napoleon and see perfectly well when they're Santa Teresa. Or the other way around, they could have two completely opposite and different symptoms with the different personalities. And this could happen in a split second. And this is very interesting and very important because it tells us that there is a personality, a way of being that corresponds to each eyesight symptom. And when we want to see clearly again, we need to develop the kind of personality that is the most authentic and that corresponds to who we are, where we don't have any symptom. And if we're having a symptom, then we are functioning and we're behaving in a way in our personality that corresponds to that kind of symptom. So this is fascinating. And it also tells us that our nervous system can turn the switch on or off in an instant. So now the interesting thing is, which are those personalities or personality traits that are hiding behind each eyesight symptom so that we can transform that. And the beauty of this is that when you transform that, not only do you see better, clearly again, but you're actually happier. When you release the things that are in between yourself and clarity, you also are happier in life. Okay, let me have a quick look also at the... Okay, Alison is saying, hi, no, I'm joining from London. I came across your page yesterday and have hooked since. Very interesting, awesome. Great, I'm very happy that you're interested about this. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more about how these discoveries were made, what they mean, and especially how they can be useful for you, and what specific emotional tension is behind these 15 eyesight symptoms. So let's get back to Charles Kelly, the first one that I showed you a reference from. We're going to follow his line of work, and we'll take it from there. So Charles Kelly had been myopic. He had been nearsighted, so he needed glasses to see far. And he was studying psychology, and he came across the work of Dr. William Bates through the work of his disciple, Margaret Dars-Corbett. And thanks to working with her, he actually could get rid of the glasses for seeing far, and he got rid, of course, also of the myopia, the nearsightedness. Now, Margaret Dars-Corbett, that he had the honor to work with, was one of the latest disciples of Dr. Bates, one of the favorite disciples. So she could learn from him at the height of his experience and understanding of eyesight and vision. And also, she was an educator. So she did an amazing work to teach others and to explain to others how this worked. She had a very, very successful practice in Los Angeles, very successful. And she worked with a lot of famous people of the time. So maybe we wouldn't know them nowadays because we're talking like in the 40s. But for example, Kirk Douglas, the father of Michael Douglas, he improved eyesight with natural vision. And among the famous people that she worked with was Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley, you may have heard about, because he's the author of this dystopian novel, A Brave New World, and a lot of us had to read that novel in high school. I did. Well, Aldous Huxley also wrote another book called The Art of Seeing, and this book that was published in the early 40s did the state of the art of natural vision improvement up to then. Since then, of course, there's been a lot more research, and also our conditions of living have changed. So we need to be up to date. But this book exists, and you can check the story that I'm going to tell in this book. Sometimes it's available actually even online. Anyway, so Aldous Huxley, in The Art of Seeing, he explains that when he was 16, he had a keratitis punctata attack, and he became legally blind. He had to learn how to read and write with Braille. And so he had lost his eyesight for a very long time until he worked with Margaret Dars-Corbett, and Aldous Huxley was able to become functional again with glasses sometimes and without glasses sometimes, but from being legally blind into being functional with his own eyes, with or without glasses. I mean, that was a very, very, very big accomplishment. So he was so thankful and so grateful that he wrote this book. And so Charles Kelly, a bit after that, a few years after that, he worked with the same person, and he got rid of his glasses. And because he was studying psychology, he had to study, of course, different currents in psychology. He had to study Sigmund Freud's and psychoanalytics and psychoanalysis. And so among the next generation after Freud, there's a number of heterodox people, such as Lacan in France, or Jung, Carl Jung, also very known. And we're going to talk here a little bit about Wilhelm Reich, who's also from that generation. Okay, so Wilhelm Reich developed a theory of bioenergetics and body shields, body armor. And the idea that Wilhelm Reich discovered that is interesting for us today is that when people do not handle their emotions, when they don't express them, live them, transcend them, integrate them, express them, those emotions become muscle tension in the body. So the tensions that we're carrying in our bodies, a lot of them have an emotional origin. Some of them even aren't ours, but we inherited in the family culture. And they're passed on one generation after generation because we have the same beliefs and views on the world, etc. And actually, because of emotions being stored in different muscle groups, you can actually notice that people that tend to have the same kind of emotions very often have common postures, and those postures are different from people who have other kind of emotions. So that's one of the ideas behind bioenergetics. and these muscle armors. So people who are happy or afraid or angry or sad don't hold themselves in the same way. And you can work with the muscles to have emotional release, and that's good both for the body and for the emotions and for the person, of course. So Charles Kelly came across the theories of Wilhelm Reich, and so he heard about this idea that emotions can be stored in muscles, and then they can create chronic tension in those muscles. And he was like, wait, so this is an interesting idea. And on the other hand, with Margaret Dash Corbett, I learned that William Bates says that the refractive errors, such as being nearsighted, farsighted, having astigmatism, or needing reading glasses, are due to tension in specific muscles in the eyes. So for farsightedness would be the straight muscles, for nearsightedness it would be the oblique muscles, for presbyopia or the need for reading glasses it would be the ciliary muscles, and for astigmatism, irregular tensions in the straight muscles. These are things that we actually explained in lesson number 1. So Bates is telling that refractive errors, vision symptoms, are due, the most common at least, to muscle tension. And Wilhelm Reich is saying that muscle tension many times can be due to emotional tension. So what if behind the eyesight symptoms and through the muscles in this case, we are actually looking at specific emotional tensions? And so because he had been myopic and he had released his own myopia, he decided to do his PhD on myopia, on nearsightedness. And so he gathered a group of people who had nearsightedness and did his research, his empirical research, and defended his PhD. And actually, the PhD was so good, was so successful, that he won the prize to the best PhD that year at the University of Columbia. And we're talking about a very good university in the United States. So he, of course, published articles in optometrical journals, and also he published articles in psychological journals, in journals of psychology. He was on the Time magazine, he was on the New York Times. He was invited to TV stations and radios in New York and California. So at the time, there was a lot of exposition of this PhD. However, if we look how mainstream ophthalmology and optometry have been functioning up to now, unfortunately, these amazing ideas have not penetrated a mainstream handling of eyesight and vision by eyesight professionals. And fortunately, vision educators do know about this. So this is why we're talking about this. Now, besides Charles Kelly, of course, there's been others who've been doing research on this. I've showed you a few scientific references earlier, but I can mention some more. For example, Kaplan, Robert Paseo Kaplan, who's an optometrist who became a vision educator from South Africa, and he lived in Canada for a very long time. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2020. He did a lot of research also on emotions and eyesight. Also, Dr. Wolfgang Schutz-Zenden, I hope I'm pronouncing it well because it's a German name. He was a German psychosomatic ophthalmologist that also studied these processes. I've seen references of ophthalmologists researching in France on this topic, on biodecodage, that's how they call it, biodecoding of symptoms. And as for me, I got in touch with this information, with this kind of ideas, by Dr. Martin Brofman, who has an amazing book called Improve Your Vision that talks on these topics also. And I had the pleasure to work directly with him. I studied his work for 20 years, but I worked hand in hand with him for 7 years, translating all his workshops in Spain. And for me, as a professor and researcher at the University of Toulouse, I have done research on this topic as well, also with a colleague, Dr. Anita Meidani. She's a colleague from the university, and she's also a sociologist specialized in sociology of health and sociology of the body. And we did research in 2016 with 450 people, and then later in 2018 with 1,122 people, looking into these correspondences between emotions and eyesight symptoms. And we're going to tell you the detail of it in a way that's useful for you. But so you know, I've had the opportunity to publish on these topics and to give talks in various conferences, congresses, summits, like the international conferences of vision educators and holistic vision, the international ones, the ones organized by the Association of Vision Educators in the United States, ASOLEA, which is the association in Argentina, and I've also been involved in the VEA, the association in Spain. I have also presented in the first International Congress of Conscious Vision and 2 times in the conferences of the Lifestyle Medicine Summits with people like with experts, renowned experts, such as Bruce Lipton, Colin Campbell, Robert Pearl, thank you, Ocean Robbins, Dawson Church, that are specialists of epigenetics and other questions in health, in contemporary groundbreaking findings on health. And of course, we've been sharing these ideas on our own conferences and summits. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that you understand that what I'm talking about, I'm not a magician, that I'm taking this out of a hat like a white rabbit or something. There really is a lot of scientific research behind the ideas that I'm going to share with you. Okay, so let me have a quick look at the chat. Good, and let's dive in with the topics. So I'm going to list the symptoms that I'm going to talk about, so that you know and you see that the ones you have are there. And pay attention when we talk about the symptoms. Actually, if you have a notebook, I would like to invite you on the notebook to make a list of the different symptoms that you have on your eyesight, what you've been told that's going on your eyesight, and to write next to it the years or the time where it appeared, when it appeared. So you can become aware of what was going on for you at the time when the symptom appeared, yeah? And then you can leave some space, or you can put it on the next page, to write about that situation that you find out that happened when the eyesight symptoms started, yeah? And the symptoms that I'm going to be talking about will be, first, the refractive errors, myopia, hyperopia, presbyopia, astigmatism. All those are caused by muscles tension in muscles. We're going to talk about amblyopia and strabismus that sometimes also involve tension in the muscles. But this research on the emotions hiding behind eyesight symptoms have extended beyond muscle tensions, and we found correspondences on typical kinds of situations. So that's why, with the research following Dr. Kelly's, we have been able to track also other tendencies of emotions hiding behind eyesight symptoms. So we're going to talk also about dry eye, or a crying eye, or a red irritated eye. We're also going to talk about conjunctivitis, or pterygion. We're going to talk about myodepsis, when you see floaters. We're also going to talk about sensitivity to light. We're going to talk about styes, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, vitreous detachment, retinal detachment, keratoconus, when you're blind to color, and double vision. These are the symptoms that we listed that we want to talk about today. Okay, and hello, Margaret from Ireland. Okay, so let's start with myopia, or nearsightedness. So we know that a myopic eye is an eye that is too long because there's tension in the oblique muscles. But in terms of experience, somebody who's nearsighted, who has myopia, if this is my personal space, the person who has this experience doesn't see far away, but sees near. What is this person doing with his or her energy? this person is retrieving from the world, looking at the world as a threatening space where they're afraid or they feel insecurity about the future. Myopia often starts in childhood. And what we have found, not always, but often in childhood, but especially what we have found is that myopia appears in a moment in the life of the person when she or he is undergoing a change that seems threatening, that he or she is not yet prepared to face. Now, some typical changes that happen at the same time as myopia, things such as starting school, changing school cycles, like going from primary to secondary or middle school, and then to high school, then to university, or stopping university, getting a job, these kind of things. Myopia also can start when there's a family, an impactful family event. For example, a baby brother or sister is born. And then I was the king or the queen in the house, and now mom and dad are paying attention to the new baby. And for that baby, it can be threatening. They may feel that maybe they are not as loved, or they have uncertainty about it. Sometimes when a grandparent dies, or when the parents are arguing a lot, or they divorce, or one of them dies, or one of them has a challenge at work, like changes jobs or loses a job, and this atmosphere of insecurity is felt at home. Sometimes it's social events, when there's, for example, a coup d'etat or a change in regime or something like that, or an economic crisis, when that is noticeable in the family, in the emotional climate of the family, the kid can pick it up. Okay. Other typical moments for myopia to start is, for example, again, we said when we change jobs, or when we change in the cycle of school, when we change jobs, with puberty, in the teenage years, when we have all kinds of hormonal changes and our bodies start to change, and then we have to pay attention at the politics of seduction and dating, like, do I like him or her, or I don't, or they like me or they don't, and for some people it becomes overwhelming. Some people get how do you call pimples on the face? Is that the name? When you get for teenage people, when they get things on the face, what's that called? Pimples? Pimples, yeah. Some people get pimples, acne, yeah. And some people actually develop myopia. They don't want to see these things that seem so complicated at the time if they don't feel confident enough in themselves. And another typical moment to start myopia, and this happens in an older age, is for women when they're pregnant. If that pregnancy in some way seems a challenge for them. So it can be in the first pregnancy, or it can be in the pregnancy number N, when you already have plenty of kids and you feel that it's going to be hard to have one more. So, and we can understand this. Becoming a mom is really a life-changing experience. And of course, a lot of us enjoy it very much, and it's beautiful, but it's also sometimes terrifying, and it can bring up a lot of uncertainty, fear, or insecurity. So these are the kind of situations that happen behind myopia that we have found in research. But the underlying idea is that the person is faced to a situation, to a change that he or she is not prepared to handle, that he or she feels fears with insecurity. And and so when people develop myopia, very often they develop a compensing strategy. They become very controlling to compensate for the feeling of insecurity or fear that they have. So they start trying to control the future. They start to imagine negative possible futures on what they would do in the different situations to be prepared to handle it. And actually, this control and this thinking about the future and trying to handle everything actually requires a lot of effort, attention, energy. And so people who develop myopia very often do not enjoy the present because they're too focused on the future, because they're fearing the future. And again, this is causing a lot of stress and taking a lot of resources. So if you have come and you want to release myopia, if you want to leave glasses for looking far away behind, then it would be very useful for you to repeat this idea. Well, first, you need to be present in the present. Because if you're not present in the present, life slips away and you haven't enjoyed it. You need to be present in the present also because that's where your nervous system can be active for perception of your senses, not just eyesight, everything else too. And so to be present in the present, sometimes it's useful to use this little mantra and to repeat it, saying, everything is okay, everything will be okay. And if something happens, I trust myself that I will be able to handle it. So you need to develop trust in yourself and trust in life. And actually, if you're here using electronic devices, attending this workshop, you've become an adult, well, you have handled the situations that you needed to handle, so you can give yourself this trust, this acknowledgement. Okay, so that's for myopia, for nearsightedness. Now, farsightedness, called hyperopia. Farsightedness, actually, it's also a similar adaptive response of the body to the environment. Hyperopia is also related with fear and insecurity, but for a person who becomes nearsighted, the response is to hide, to retrieve themselves from the world, to hide away from the world. For hyperopia or farsightedness, the response is to run away, to flee, to go to the next place. The reactions for survival usually are, to hide or to run away or to fight, okay? So with hyperopia, it also appears at a time in our lives where we don't feel safe, where being present in the present situation is not safe. And the response in this case is to look for the emergency exit, to run away to something else. And so if you've developed hyperopia, besides recognizing when it happened and what was going on, it's useful for you to recognize and to realize that being where you are in the present moment now is safe. You've been able to build for yourself another kind of life, and you don't need to keep running away or fleeing. Yeah. So that's the idea behind hyperopia. With presbyopia, the need for reading glasses that frequently, but not compulsory, as we said in lesson number 2, frequently comes with age. With presbyopia, so this, if I take the metaphor of this being my personal space, we have the opposite that from nearsightedness or myopia. What we have is people who see very clearly far away, but they don't see clearly near anymore. And we already said in lesson number 2 that there's whole societies in which there is no presbyopia, and societies where people live long, like the Vilacabamba in Ecuador, or the Hansa in the Himalayas, or even in China, there hasn't been presbyopia for a very, very long time, until a couple decades ago. So it's interesting to see what is different with age in those societies compared to our societies. And for example, in China, they have this Confucianist religion in which the elders in each family are due respect. They're the most important people in the family. So the elder people always sit in the best place in the room and at the table. They're the ones who are served first. And people go to talk with them with respect and veneration to seek advice on the important matters of life. So when they're regarded as important, they see themselves as important. So they are still in the center of their own life, on their own existence. And what happens when people get older in our Western societies, contemporary, highly technological societies? Well, in many places, you are forced to retire when you still maybe would like to do the job that you were doing and you feel perfectly apt to do it, but you're like put into the parking lot, aside as if you were not useful anymore. Or sometimes in certain countries, you want to buy a new house and nobody will give you credit anymore. So you bought the house or you didn't buy it, but you don't have more new options. Or maybe you already got married, or you didn't get married, or you divorced, or you had the children, or you didn't have them. But it seems that those choices are not going to be available again. Or for people who value a lot their appearance, you start seeing that you have little traits in your face and the hair is getting whiter and you don't feel as attractive and you feel like you're losing options, that you're losing opportunities. So what happens in these societies where there's ageism, we could say that, then people look at themselves when they're older and they start feeling that they're worthless, that they're not as worthy as they were before, that they're not the main character of their own film, they're not the stars anymore. So they start doing two things. They start looking at the past as if the past was the best that happened in their life. You know, these people who say, in my times, things were like this or like that. Well, if you're alive, guess what? Your times are now too. And so they start looking at the past with regret, with nostalgia, or with guilt, or with anger, instead of keeping enjoying the present. And what happens too is that if they don't feel, or if you don't feel worthy and interesting anymore, then you start giving your energy to the new stars or the new protagonists of the film. So people who develop presbyopia give a lot of time and energy and attention to their kids, their grandkids, their spouse, their parents, their neighbors, maybe social causes or things like that, but they forget about themselves. So if you've developed presbyopia, if you're here because you want to get rid of reading glasses, this is the message that your eyes are telling you. You need to put yourself in the center of your life, in the center of your existence. You need to make your present interesting, fun, and relevant. You need to stop giving your energy away to everyone else and start focusing on yourself. And make the rest of your life the best of your life. Again, if you're alive now, these are your times. And maybe you had kids and maybe they're gone, and maybe you had a job that you like and maybe you don't have that job anymore. Well, guess what? The good news is that now you have plenty of time. So maybe this is the time to start exploring some things that you always wanted to do, and for some reason you never had the chance to do that. So maybe it's the moment to start painting, or start gardening, or start dancing, or start playing an instrument that you always wanted to play, or start discovering the world, or taking more time to see your friends. Whatever it is that is passionating for you, you need to give it space. You need to take care of yourself. And so to leave presbyopia behind, so focus on the present, make the present fun, the present and the future, that you can look forward to it, and put yourself in the center of your attention again. So for this, you'll need to develop what we call positive selfishness. How does this work? And it may seem a bit exaggerated, but it's important because we need to compensate a tendency that you've had that was to give too much attention to others. So positive selfishness, how does it work? First, I'm back. I don't know what happened, but I saw it happening. So we were saying positive selfishness. First, internet, keep there. First me, okay? Afterwards, I. After that, me. And if there's something left, it's also for me. Okay, yeah, nice that I'm back. So Ching Ching is asking, is presbyopia and hyperopia the same thing? No, hyperopia corresponds to the straight muscles being tight, and it's difficult for the person to focus at any distance, but even more difficult to focus near. And with presbyopia, people tend to see well far away, but they need reading glasses to see near. Presbyopia statistically appears with age after 40 or 50. If you've had trouble at the near distance all your life, probably you had hyperopia. If it has been in the recent years, probably it's presbyopia. Okay, I hope that's clear. SS is saying, I remember that my myopia started when the kids in school started teasing me about stupid kid stuff. There you go. So school is historically the main producer of myopia. And it's actually documented historically that the first epidemic of myopia happened in Prussia. It wasn't even Germany yet at the time, in the late 19th century, when school was declared compulsory in the country. Yeah. And myopia rose into 5% of the population. And at the time, it was considered like, whoa, there has been a sudden rise in myopia. Guess what? Now the levels of myopia in societies are much higher. And actually, we're having also a pandemic of myopia developing, a silent pandemic. But because it's not killing people, just making life very uncomfortable, it doesn't have as much attention. And we need to learn the things we need to do so that we can stop myopia in this generation. And yeah, when you're changing settings, and especially if you're getting bullied or things like that, it could well be the reason to have myopia. I mean, Ching Ching is saying, I developed myopia the first year of university, so probably it was a challenge to change from high school to university. Maybe you had to move to another city. All the rules of what's happening are different. There's more expectations. Yeah, it's harder. So it makes sense. And Zora is saying, my farsighted started when my child began with a severe health problem and I was running around, running from one place to another. That's what's behind hyperopia, as we said, the farsighted, trying to figure out how to help out there. So you're seeing that the things that I'm talking about are matching. I mean, again, this information based on decades of research, so it's well grounded. So since we're in this conversation, I wonder if the friends that have come, my fellow colleagues, vision educators or vision educators to be, Daniel, Natalie, Sarah, if any of you would like to make a comment about your own discoveries with emotions and eyesight in your own personal experience. And then I'll keep talking about more symptoms, astigmatism, etc. Any of you want to speak? Sarah? Okay, okay. So let's go with Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
So in my case, I developed myopia when I was 8. So it is already 32 years ago. And so everything began because around that age, I moved house, I changed school, and I had a sister. And on top of everything, my parents were not
Getting along?
getting along very well.
So there was a lot of change all of a sudden for one 8-year-old kid all at once. A lot.
Yeah. So after a year, I changed school, and then is when one day I asked my father, Daddy, I can see very well. So the subtitles in TV are kind of blurry. Can you see them well? And he was like, No, you should be seeing them well. And I was like, okay. So we went to the a doctor, and I had a little bit of myopia. So, and then I started wearing my glasses, and that increased when I arrived to high school, and that increased when I arrived to university, and stopped around my 30s. But then I got astigmatism around when I was a teenager. I had kind of troubles, you know.
We haven't talked about astigmatism yet, but we will.
I
No,
won't say anything. Okay.
you can say. You can say. Go ahead.
So, and then the thing that I discovered that really catch me with natural vision and listening to your free videos that I registered, it was the emotional side of it, because it clicked I mean, everything happens, and I am a person that I'm all the time like, or I used to be. Or I used to be. I have the tendency, but when I am aware, I stop. When I realize about it, I stop, and so that I have the tendency to be preoccupied about things that didn't happen just yet, and it's like, stop it, because I'm exhausted at the end of the day, you know. And then I tend to be fear about things that are kind of stupid, and it's like
It's too much energy going there, too much of a waste of
exactly,
energy. Yeah.
and then with the stigmatism, I realized that I try to be a person that, so it's let me explain, let me rephrase it.
Find the words. Yeah.
I am trying to be that person that I think the others are expecting me to be. And
Yes, that's the astigmatism part. So
exactly.
we can talk about this. You can stay with me. You can stay with
Yeah.
me as we talk about
Okay.
astigmatism. So, astigmatism at the level of the eye, there are irregular tensions in the straight muscles. And so that creates a cornea that has the shape of a rugby or an American football ball, instead of being round like a basketball or a soccer ball, yeah, which would be the normal aspect of the cornea. So that's at the physical level. But at the emotional level, what we're talking about, behind the stigmatism, there is confusion in your own values. And the idea is that astigmatism appears for a person at a time where he or she betrays what is really true for them, what they really want, what they really believe, what they really feel, so that they can fit the expectations that others have on them. They're seeking for acceptance for whatever reason, and so they betray themselves to try to fit into a mold. And these expectations can come from many different places. It could be expectations that mom or dad has, or the rest of the family, or the society, the location, the region, or the society, the country that you live in. It could be expectations about your profession. It could be expectations about your role in the family. So, how to be a good daughter, or a good son, or a good father, or a good sister, or a good husband, a good wife, a good mother, a good, I don't know, a good artist, or a good painter, a good musician, a good accountant. And when people are seeing things that don't fit to who you are, and if there's pressure around it, and if you want to conform, betraying yourself, that's when astigmatism appears. And I've had astigmatism too, so it also makes sense. Maybe you want to talk about your astigmatism, Sarah, in a moment. In my case, I developed astigmatism in my early 30s. I had finished my PhD already. I was a tenured professor at the university. I was in the editorial board of an international, very well-renowned journal, and I was preparing a special issue for that journal. I had awards for my PhD. Like, everyone considered that for my age, I was having an amazingly brilliant career, and everybody was very proud of me. But my eyes were telling me, with presbyopia and astigmatism, this is boring for you. You know, if life goes on like this, the best of your life is behind. It's not in the front, which at 30 some, it's not really fun. And the other thing, astigmatism was telling me, you've betrayed yourself. This is not what you want to do. This doesn't make you happy. So I had to really look inside, and I had to acknowledge and recognize that I was following my father's wishes. He always wanted to have, well, he did a PhD and would have liked to be a university professor, and he wasn't. He was a high school professor, and then he liked it very much to be a high school teacher. But he couldn't achieve that dream, and he always wanted to have a daughter who would be a scientist, who would be an academic. So yeah, my father was very happy, but what about me? So I had to rethink my career and realign it in a way that would make me happy, because I was living that life. I am being the main character in that film, and so that's when I started, changing directions and going into clinical sociology, therapy, natural vision improvement, and doing something that goes just beyond research for the sake of knowledge, but that has a positive social impact, that people can really benefit in their well-being and in their lifestyle and have a better life because of what I do. That makes me very happy. That's why we're here. And Sarah, so what about you? What happened with astigmatism in you and how you got over it?
In my case, once I got here in with Wake Up Your Eyes and after in the ClearSight Method, is that I realized that when my parents divorced, I was constantly trying to please both of them. I was feeling guilty. And I was trying to please them all the time. And then, well, with the years and everything, you change perspectives and everything, but you have this kind of pattern when you try to please everyone. And then, well, a couple of years ago, I just realized and I said, stop, that's enough. I'm just going to please myself now. For example, I'm just going to give you another example that I realized that was a few years ago, but this is kind of the same thing. I used to watch soccer, but because when I was a teenager and during my 20s and so on, Barcelona Football Club was a great team. You know, it was on the top, and they had the tiki taka, and also
And
Guardiola was,
Messi and Guardiola and all the prizes, all the awards.
yes.
Yeah, that was the golden age of the Barça. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching it because all my family is a Barca fan, and you know Barca is the best. Blah 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 blah. Until a few years ago, I realized, why am I watching soccer? I don't like it, and I am not enjoying. I've lost so many time in my life watching
So many hours.
so many hours. Yes, that is like, oh my god. And I just ignore it now. I say I don't care what happens, you know. So imagine the difference when you realize about these things. So just in there.
Yeah, very good, because you're talking about, what's exactly behind the stigmatism. A friend of mine, a writer, and she was a self-taught writer. She's published a number of books, and they're very beautiful. And at some point in time, so she was guiding herself into writing. So she thought that she had to be knowledgeable about literature worldwide, all the great currents of literature worldwide. And at some point in time, she found herself reading the famous French writers, and she developed astigmatism. She was bored with them, but she was forcing herself to read them until in that period, one day she was at the library, a book fell from the shelf and opened in a page that said, organs that you don't use become atrophied. So she took away the glasses for astigmatism. And that book was also very interesting. And it was from Sufi writers, and she started to read Sufi authors and dropped the boring French writers, and the astigmatism disappeared from just doing something that corresponded to what her heart was happy about. And let's be careful here. I'm not saying anything about French writers. She didn't like them. Maybe somebody else finds them fascinating, and that's perfect. Like, you don't like soccer, but maybe somebody else finds it fascinating, and that's fantastic. The idea is that people who like soccer watch soccer, and people who like ballet watch ballet. And it's not that one is better than the other, but each of us, the idea is to enjoy ourselves doing the things that are really true for us. Okay? So thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Maybe I'll continue with a few more symptoms, and then I'll give the time to Natalie. Daniel has warned me that his internet is not very good to be on camera, but he's very glad to type on the chat. Thank you, Sarah, very much. Do you want to add something now, or I go on with the explanation for now?
Well, I just want to encourage the people to dig in their symptoms, so they are going to find out fascinating things about themselves. That's it. So you can continue now.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, so let's see. I'm also looking here some questions that are coming. So Zora is asking, can you repeat the mantras for nearsighted and farsightedness at some point? So for nearsighted people, the idea is to allow themselves to be present in the present, and for farsighted also to feel that the present is safe, that you can be here, that it's safe to be where you are. And for nearsighted in particular, in regards to the future, instead of fearing it, like Sarah was telling, and become very preventive and preoccupied, to just focus on what's in the present and trust yourself and trust life that everything is okay, everything will be okay. And if something comes up, you will be able to manage it. Okay? Okay, so let's go into more symptoms, and then I'll answer. No, let's answer this question before. So SS is asking, as a parent, how can one help their own child with emotional release when they get myopia or farsightedness? So if you know now that they are both about feeling safe and trusting themselves and trusting life, and maybe being challenged by a sudden change, well, maybe you can have a conversation with them and find out where might be worrying them. What kind of support do they need? What kind of transitional tools do they need? I mean, I'm going to call Sarah back because this is a topic that may be useful for you. What would have been useful for you when you were 8 and you changed so many things and your sister was born and your parents were not getting along? What would have been useful for you to feel better at that time? What kind of connection with your parents or explanations or attention would have been useful? Or would it, yeah.
Okay. I think I think that somebody asked me how am I feeling, how am I doing. So we are going to do this. What do you think? What do you expect? This is what's going to happen. So somebody tell me what's going to happen. How are we going to do? No, So having the sister, this is what's going to happen. Blah 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 blah. This is what's going to come. So maybe we are not going to be like the same as we were with you, but because we are going to be very busy with the baby, but we are going to love you the same. Things like this, or the same with moving house, like letting me participate in things like this. And then when they got divorced, in this case, I would have loved that they didn't ask me difficult questions, such as who do you prefer to be with, stuff like this. This is very, very difficult to deal with at that age. I was 11, and so that kind of things is something for adults. You just need to explain to a child what's going to happen in a short way, very clear, and after this, just be very, very supportive with what a child is going through at that moment.
Okay, well, SS is saying that's great advice for the parents. Thank you. Well, great. Thank you. And also, Zora, thank you. This is fantastic and so helpful. Well, I'm very happy, very, very happy that this is being helpful. Okay, thanks. I hope that helps others too, because no one wants their child to have to wear glasses at such a young age, of course. So I'm going to translate what you just said in my own words, Sarah. Basically, that is considering children as persons. I mean, you would talk with your partner about moving, right? You would agree on these things with your partner. Well, keep the kids in the loop in the same way. The language is going to be different, and maybe they don't have the same level of say in the decision, but you could visit the house when it's empty before they go there, or you could visit the neighborhood and have like a scouting around so that everyone's familiar, and you could go back to the old neighborhood once in a while to keep playing with the friends, or to make sure that the connection with the friends in the other location is still there. I mean, there's things that you can do, but you need to pay attention at what the child is saying, what is needing, and consider them like you would consider your partner, right? Am I making sense, Sarah? Yeah, okay.
For me, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to more symptoms, more eyesight symptoms, and we'll keep seeing. So, the lazy eye or amblyopia and strabismus, they also tend to appear in childhood. I had both of them. I was actually born with them. I was born with a squint, strabismus, and one of my eyes, I don't remember which one it was, but my brain was not considering the vision, the eyesight from that eye. So what's going on behind those symptoms? With amblyopia or a lazy eye, there is a difficult connection with one of the parents. Might be the father, might be the mother. And now, this is important what I'm going to say. If your children have symptoms, it doesn't mean that you are being a bad parent, but it does mean that that child needs something that you haven't yet been able to provide, or that you haven't yet paid attention. Because people are different and people have different needs and we're not all the same. So it doesn't mean that you're doing a bad job, but maybe your child needs something else that you can dig in. So with amblyopia, with a lazy eye, it's important to make the distinction between the polarities of the body. And for right-handed people, our right side of our body, including our eye, is about yang aspects, things that happen from the door of the house towards the rest of the world, like action and projects, achieving things in the outer world. And because these activities, traditionally, historically, culturally, in many places, have been often been assigned with socialization and social norms to men, so it is likely that if there is a symptom in the right eye, it has something to do with action, projects, something in the outer world, or the relationship with an important man in your life, or at least an important young figure in your life. Yeah, sometimes there's also young women. Okay, and if for right-handed people, if the symptom is in the left eye, the left side of our body represents yin aspects, things that happen from the door of the house towards the inside, like emotions and caring and deep relationships. And because traditionally, culturally, historically, in many societies, the roles of what happens inside the house and those activities have been assigned by socialization and social norms to women, then it could be that if there are symptoms when you're right-handed, if there are symptoms in your left eye, that it has to do with how you feel with emotions, relationships, intimacy, the household, or an important woman in your life. And when we're talking about important women and men in our life, well, when we're kids, the most important are our parents, mom, dad. When we are adults, it could be our partners, but it also could be our siblings, and it also could be our offspring, like our children, daughters and sons. Okay, now, when you are left-handed, the tendency would be the opposite, okay? If you are left-handed, then your left side is the yang side, about action, projects, most likely men or a man in your life, and your right side would be about yin aspects, inside the house, emotions, relationships, caring, intimacy, and most likely a woman that's important in your life. And the idea is to look at the time when the symptom appeared, what was going on, because that's the thing that you reacted to, and maybe you've been under the effect of that for many years after. Okay, you'll have to do some homework. Yes, okay. And S says, no wonder I haven't gotten rid of your astigmatism. Okay, so now you're having clues so that you can leave it behind. Let's see more. So with amblyopia, so you can see if the eye that sees less, what is it about? Is that absent, or that kid would need more time with dad or mom? Or is the communication style, because different people have different ways of behaving and talking and being, is the communication style of mom or dad not exactly what the kid needs? So these are things that we can look at. And when there is strabismus, a squint, so the internal strabismus going inwards is more common, but sometimes there's divergent strabismus. So the convergent strabismus is talking about the child feels guilty about this harmony between mom and dad. Children, especially the smaller they are, they tend to feel that they're the center of the universe and everything is about them. So they're responsible or they're guilty for whatever is happening around them. So then it's very important to explain to the kid that whatever is happening between mom and dad doesn't have anything to do with them, that he or she is loved and he or she is the fruit of love between mom and dad, regardless what happens between mom and dad. Even if they get separate or something or divorced, they will always be loving mom and dad. And with diverging strabismus, it's something that's in the area, although it's not exactly the same. The baby feels like if I see dad clearly, I cannot see mom clearly. Or if I connect with dad, I cannot connect with mom. And if I connect with mom, I cannot connect with dad. So for that child, it looks as if the way in which mom and dad are seems so different that it seems that there's a conflict of loyalties, that he cannot be connected with both at the same time. So, and this can happen even if mom and dad are not divorced and live together. But so it's important for adults to explain to the kid that it's okay to be connected with both of them, and they may be different people, but they both love him, and there is no conflict of loyalties. And even if the parents would be separated or divorced, that the child has the right to keep a link to both of them, and that he or she is loved and the fruit of love between mom and dad. So, okay, yes, SS, a lot of encouragement to you. Of course, you're going to do better and better. And Alison's like, wow, this information rings so true, spot on. Super happy that it's giving you insight. Okay, Phyllis is asking, could you comment on the psychology if there's one eye that's nearsighted and one eye is farsighted? Phyllis, if you could write if you're right-handed or left-handed and which is the eye that is nearsighted and which is the eye that is farsighted, or for the person that you're interested in, then I can give a very specific answer. Otherwise, I won't have enough information. So write it in the chat and I will circle back to you. So while Phyllis is writing that, let's talk about other symptoms. Let me see the chat. Okay, I think that's it. Or Natalie, maybe you want to say something in the meantime? Natalie, can I invite you in? Okay, there. And mute yourself, because otherwise we don't hear you.
Good evening, everybody. Well, for me, it was like also a little bit the history of Sarah with the symptoms. I experienced myopia and astigmatism, and then presbyopia. Presbyopia, I said goodbye. And of course, it was so, I realized that I was not seeing more myself. I was always trying to please my parents, my husband, everybody. And I couldn't see myself also in the in what I wanted to do. Just forgetting about me, thinking only on the other. And I could find that, well, in myopia and astigmatism, I had lots of improvements.
So you're more focused on yourself and being true to yourself and being authentic and enjoying your life as you want. Okay.
Yes, and when I did this recourse, it was really the connection emotion eyes was
eye-opening.
Yes, make me start the journey that I did, because not only for my eye history, also for my profession, I'm a therapist, and that has much meaning to me, how the emotion affect the body, stay trapped there, like also our tissue are like the old photo camera that have the film, the negative, everything get impressed there. And but in the physical therapy, most of the time, the eyes are the big forgotten.
Yeah. Yes.
So that link was so fascinating to me, and that I went. I start this journey, and I'm so happy, and also for my improvements. One thing that happened to me, as you told before, for the loss of a parent of death, I had much improvements in my myopia, but in October I lost my father, and
I remember.
my right eye. I'm right-handed.
So the eye
And
of seeing that, yes.
went back, and now is recovering. I'm catching again. I have many flashes again, but I could
ClearSight.
experience really what how the emotion, the impact of the emotion on us.
Yes.
It's so fascinating, really.
Yes. Yes. By the way, Natalie is speaking from Italy and Switzerland, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. And Sarah was speaking from Ireland, although she's Spanish. She's Spaniard like me. Yeah. So beautiful, the improvements that you have made with yourself, with presbyopia, astigmatism, myopia, so nearsightedness, need for reading glasses, astigmatism. You've improved in all of that. And you could see the relationship with losing your dad, and I remember that, and I'm sorry for your loss. And
Thank you.
and you being a therapist, also, it's very important that you can now also, as soon as you finish your certification, you'll be perfectly ready to also support your clients that you already have for other reasons and with their eyesight. And that's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yes, of course. Thank you. I know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, stay around, and if you see that you could jump in again, same for Sarah Daniel. I saw that Daniel wrote that his symptom was astigmatism. I realized I wasn't following what I wanted to live in life, pleasing others. And the funny thing was that the same day I took 2 eye diagnoses, and they were different results. So it confirmed that the refractive error can vary in one day many times. Yeah, depending on how you feel. Absolutely. Very, very good. Okay, thank you, Natalie. I'm going to continue, and I'll continue also answering some questions. So that gave Phyllis the time to explain. So she's right-handed, okay, and the right eye is far-sighted, and the left is nearsighted. So what this would mean, being right-handed, your right eye is the yang eye, about projects, action, and maybe or the relationship to yang figures in your life. So it seems that concerning projects, action, men, your insecurities have led you to a tendency to run away or to go fast to the next thing. And it may not be you, but an image of someone like this could be someone who's changing jobs all the time, going from one thing to the next, one activity to the next. And if your left eye, if you're right-handed, is the emotional, the yin eye. So if you're nearsighted in that side, it means that insecurities and fear in the area of emotions or intimacy or relationships have brought you to hiding and retrieving yourself from the world. So maybe it's a bit difficult for you to feel safe in relationships or intimacy or with emotions, and maybe you've developed a shy or a reserved way of being. This is what I could say very quickly, okay? And Zora is saying, I really love hearing from people around the world, all connecting with this kind of healing approach, reassuring that we are together. Well, the human brain and the human psychology and the mammal that humans are, we work in, if not the same, in a very similar way. I mean, we have the same hardware and the same software. So it makes a lot of sense. And Lael is saying, we have moved a lot due to my husband's job. Some optometrists said that I have astigmatism, and others have said I don't. This makes more sense now. Yes, your eyesight can change from a moment to the next, depending on how you feel. Remember this article that I showed you, depending how your personality is, you have a symptom or you don't. And the idea is to develop the kind of personality, the way of being that makes you see clearly, and in which you're being authentic and enjoying yourself and enjoying life. So you have two prices for the two rewards or two results for the same price. You see clearly and you're happy. So I know that there's more comments, but I'd like to advance with the topics, with the symptoms, and then I'll get back into the chat to see for the other questions. So about dry eye and crying eye, it may seem surprising, but they're both about the same thing, although the experience is sometimes the opposite. Although sometimes a dry eye is such because it cries and all the tears are gone, so there's none left in the eye. So besides the aspects about the composition of the tear and what may be going on there, on the emotional side, it's talking about sadness that hasn't been fully expressed, a grieving process that hasn't fully happened. And I find a lot of people who have dry eye tell me, for example, that this started when, let's say, they're adults and their father dies, and the mother is the surviving spouse, and they feel that they have to show strength so that the mother can survive the loss of their partner. And so sometimes we behave like this. As kids, we're showing strong, not crying, to help support the family or other family members. And that's a nice intention and it's good. But maybe when you're on your own, alone in the toilet, if you want, when nobody sees it, but allow yourself to cry your own sadness. Because the eyes have two functions: to see and to express emotions. And when we cry, we're literally squeezing emotions out of our system. So we need to do it once in a while. And if we don't, then we develop dry eye or crying eye. And the eye is metaphorically showing what is happening for the person. Okay, and when there's red eyes, they're itchy, irritated, or there's conjunctivitis, some infection, or we develop pterygium. I never know how to pronounce it in English, sorry. So these are different degrees of a same handling of an emotion. And in this case, the emotion is anger. When there's an infection or an inflammation in the body, it tends to be interpreted as anger stored in the body. So with a red eye, an itchy eye, or a conjunctivitis, there may be a physical cause like a virus or bacteria or something like that. But on the inside, it's interesting to see what are we doing with anger. How are we handling it? Why are we angry? Is this something that happens often? Or is it just a given situation? And how can we solve it? How can we have some assertive communication to solve that? Somebody's saying, I like the squeezing emotions out of your eyes. Well, this is an expression that I have borrowed from my dear friend and colleague Nathan Oxenfeld. I heard him say that, and I think that it was a very good way of putting it, of expressing it. Now, if the anger is constant for structural things like violence or social inequality or gender difference or domestic violence or things like that, when there's a lot of anger for something that seems to be a part of the social structure, there can be tissues changing in the eyes. And it's very good if we want to be part of social change for a noble cause, like things that I mentioned. But if you live in one of these societies where you don't like what you are seeing, besides engaging yourself for the social change, you need to do something with your emotions so that it's not affecting you in a way that's negative for you, so that you can release these symptoms. Okay, now with floaters or myopsies, you need to know that floaters are part of the natural and normal cycle of regeneration of cells in the vitreous humor. So it's normal, it's natural to have floaters to a certain extent. When you're looking at the sky or at the water or at a white wall, you'll notice some of them. That's normal. Now, when they're bothering you, and there's plenty of them, then the question is, sometimes these floaters are called flies also. The question is, what bugs are bugging you in your life? It could be people, it could be situations, it could be thoughts, things that are worrying you. and you need to take care of those bugs that are bugging you, and then the floaters will disappear. And of course, there's other things that you can do at the physical level, palming, sunning, and other practices, but at the emotional level, that's the idea. Now, people who have high sensitivity to light, and they cannot go outdoors without, they believe they cannot go outdoors without wearing sunglasses. Well, we already talked in lesson number 2 how sunning and all the alternatives of the diverse exercises with sunning can be very good to revert that condition. So you'll want to practice sunning for that. But also from the emotional side, let's look at what the archetype of the sun means. The sun is always shining. It's a very powerful source of energy, and it's always shining, whether there's nobody on the beach or thousands of people at the beach, whether it's cloudy or the sky is clear and blue, the sun is always shining authentically. So it's a metaphor or an archetype for power and empowerment. So a person who has sensitivity to light, on the one hand, could be bothered by someone who is very powerful or empowered and who's shining with their own light, and they feel threatened by that figure. Usually they are not comfortable with their own light, with their own power. They don't feel empowered. They don't feel that they can shine with their own light. And the idea here is that, well, when you're shining with your light, you're actually showing the model and showing the way for others to shine with their own light too. And for somebody to shine, somebody else doesn't need to be smaller or shine less. So there's something to clarify around that, about empowerment. And with styes, you have little balls that grow on the eyelids. Usually it's on the upper one, but it could happen also in the lower one. At the physical level, it's one of the glands producing the fat in the tears, the Meibohm and Zeiss glands that probably had become stuck, and that's why the fat is growing in there, becoming dry and becoming a little ball. Okay, and there's things you can do at the physical level to help with that. But the emotional level, what that is telling you is that you're keeping something inside of you and you're not expressing it, and it's growing inside. So when you realize when the stye happened, you can look at what you had to hold and keep inside and maybe create a circumstance or a condition or a context where you can express that and release it and let it go. And then the stye can go away. And I've had styes too. I had them once when I was living a very frustrating situation. I was very disappointed. And I had a stye for a week, I think, until I could find the occasion to talk about it and release all those emotions that happened around that situation. And then I was fine again. Okay, now for the more so for symptoms that are more of a degeneration kind, like cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, there's also emotional aspects that are associated with them, also with retinal detachment and vitreous detachment. So we're going to talk about those now. With cataracts, the crystalline is becoming opaque. It used to be transparent, and then it becomes translucid, and it's becoming, it's letting less and less the light go through it, and people with cataracts lose the possibility to see if it went to the extreme. If we use a metaphor, it's as if you have put the blinds in front of the windows of your being. Why would you do that? Because you're not interested anymore with what's going on outside in the world. People usually develop cataracts at a time in their life where they lose interest in life. And it can happen in a number of diverse situations. For example, people who loved their jobs and now they have to retire, compulsory to retire, and they don't have something that is getting them enthusiastic to get up to go to work every day and to go and have fun and play with friends and enjoy the day, for example. Another example, and this is more often something for women, there are some women who are looking forward to spending time with their grandkids and seeing them grow. And maybe their children don't have kids, or their children have kids but they live far away, or the children have kids but they don't get along anymore, or they don't get along with the spouses. In any case, for some reason, that woman is not being able to see the grandchildren. So one of the two, either she finds a solution to see them, or she finds something else in life that's fun and exciting to look and see. This other example I'm going to give is more, happens more for men. Some men, that what they find the most exciting in life is sex. And then maybe they have some problem with the prostate or something that makes that sexual life is not as interesting anymore for whatever reason. And then if they lose that, which for them was what kept them happy and alive and interested in life, well, they lose interest in life and then they get cataracts. It doesn't have to be one of the 2-3 examples I gave, but I'm telling you about the kind of thing that is often behind cataracts. So if you've developed cataracts, you need to make sure that you become interested and fascinated with life again and develop some strategies about it. With macular degeneration, okay, and SS is saying about what I told in the past, that your husband hates the sun, so that's giving you some indication, maybe some conversations you can have with your husband. Okay, about macular degeneration, the center of our retina, where the macula is, where the fovea is, degenerates, and then we lose central vision, which is the most precise part of our vision. Metaphorically, emotionally, what it means is that you have lost sight of what is central in your life. Maybe something has changed and you have felt that you've lost the main axis of your life. And this could be a number of things. It could be you lost a job, or you retired, or you lost a partner, or you lost a project. It could be a number of things. But if that happens, then you need to find another thing that is central in your life that you can see clearly and you can look forward to. With retinopathy of different kinds, what happens usually is the opposite. You lose the peripheral view and the central view keeps being good. Well, in those kind of situations, what happens is that you have lost view of the context, or you're going too fast and you're not taking enough time to go slow and smell the flowers. You're too centered on the main thing and you're forgetting the rest, what's outside of it or around it. And with glaucoma, we lose the peripheral view first, so that would apply also for glaucoma. But the cause of glaucoma is an excess of intraocular pressure in the aqueous humor. So there's too much pressure. So we need to take that into account literally. A person with glaucoma is looking at life under too much pressure or feels pressured. So if you've developed glaucoma, it's very important that you chill out and that you take out pressure from yourself. It's also very important, as we said, to do the palming and the sunning and the practices that we talked about, but internally, emotionally, you need to remove pressure off your shoulders so you can get better. Now, retinal detachment, vitreous detachment, and I see that somebody was asking about macular puckers or macular holes. So this would be related. If it's in the center, you can associate it with macular degeneration, but if it's in the periphery, you can associate it with what I'm going to talk about, retinal detachment. So vitreous detachment and retinal detachment particularly are associated with a sudden loss of someone. It could be because the person dies. It could be because there is a breakup. It could be because the person goes far away. In any case, behind the retinal detachment, very often there is a sense of a loss of someone who was important. Okay, thank you. I'm happy that that was useful for you. So Chesta, I already talked about that. Okay, let me see. Keratoconus. So keratoconus, By the way, you need to know that the first cause of keratoconus is actually refractive surgeries. Because when they do the refractive surgeries, for example, against myopia, they're altering your cornea. And sometimes the cornea becomes so thin that under other pressures, could be tension, could be something else, then the cornea starts to become pointy until it breaks. And when it breaks, it's extremely painful. So what is the emotional meaning of the keratoconus? By the way, keratoconus could also appear from, how do you call this? Rubbing your eyes, yeah? So you shouldn't rub your eyes. If you're going to touch your eyes, it always should be very delicately. So if the keratoconus happens and the cornea is broken, well, first, the cornea is the strongest lens, natural lens in the eye. It's the one that has the most power to change the direction of the light rays. It's the one that has the most diopters. Diopters are a measure of the capacity of lenses to change the direction of ray lights, and we call that the power of a lens. So the cornea is the most powerful lens in the human body. When the cornea breaks, and it's very painful, it's talking about the fact that the person feels that they have lost power. They feel powerless, and it's very painful to have lost their power. Okay, when you are blind to certain colors, when you have color blindness, it would be important to know which are the colors that you're blind to, what that you're confusing, because then in your consciousness, there is no clarity of the distinction of what those colors mean. And the most common color blindness is confusing red with green. And if we look at the psychology of colors, I won't go into the whole detail now because we don't have time today. But red is used, red flag when there's danger. Red is also associated with security. And green is associated with love and acceptance. And so when people are confusing red and green, there is a confusion between security and love. And when that distinction is made clear in their consciousness, then they can start distinguishing the colors. And if it's other colors, we would have to go in detail to which ones were the colors and what they mean and what needs to be clarified in the person's consciousness. And when there is double vision, double vision could be caused by astigmatism, it could be caused by cataracts, it could be caused by a lack of convergence between the eyes or of fusion by the brain at the physical level. But at the emotional level, what it means is that the person feels divided. There's two options, and the person doesn't see clearly how these two things could be integrated. And one example of double vision that was very clear, a participant that I had a few years ago in the ClearSight Method from Spain, she was from Barcelona, like Sara and her family. I don't know if they followed Barça, but in any case, she had all her family in Barcelona, but she was working in London with a very good job. And she saw double from the moment that she went to live in London. So on the one hand, she had an amazing job that she really loved, but all her family that she really loved was in Spain. And it was like she couldn't have the two things that she valued the most at the same time. So she started seeing double. And so I talked with her to see what would make sense to her. Would it make sense to ask for working from home and doing it from Barcelona in the same job, in the same company, but being in Barcelona? Or finding a similar job that would be in Barcelona? Or having her family from Barcelona visit her in London? Or going more often to Barcelona. So we looked at a number of possibilities so that she could feel that those two things would be, again, unified and integrated in her life. Okay, sometimes it's that you see two options and you haven't yet been able to decide which one's the good for you. So in that case, it's good to go back and connect to your heart or to your soul or your inner being or your higher being or however you want to call it, your intuition, and tune in and find out what makes more sense for you. And when we talk about listening to our heart, actually, this is not just metaphorical. because in the brain, you know that there are several layers, right? What they call the reptilian brain and the mammal brain and the human brain. They have other names as well. And we also have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and they each have different logics of handling information. So in a way, we could say that we have 6 voices talking in our heads about what we should do. That's a lot of pros and cons to consider. Now, there is a part of the brain that's called the insula that actually summarizes the information from all the brain and the brain layers and the brain parts. But the insula doesn't express with words and thoughts. And the insula is directly connected with neurons to the neurons that are in the heart. So a lot of languages have expressions and sayings around following your heart. And the idea is that when you follow your heart, you're actually following the best solution that your brain could figure out with the different kinds of handling information that the brain has. But it won't appear in words. It will appear as a feeling that you have in your chest, which is either a feeling of expansion and joy or contraction and depression. Yeah, so when you're thinking about 2 options, you can think, okay, option number 1, I imagine that I'm that. I'm thinking, imagining what's going on, where it is, who is there, what's happening, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, and you observe what happens in your chest. Is it expanding? Sounds like it's a good option. Is it contracting? Sounds like it's not a good option. And then you think of the other option. And you do the same. You imagine you're there with your eyes closed, who's there, what's happening, what does it look like, how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what is being said, etc. And you feel what's happening in your chest. Is it expanding? It's a good idea. It's contracting. Not that way. So yeah, I'm very happy that this is valuable for you, Spies. And actually, you can use the Irina in Oslo. Hi, Irina. So nice to see you, Irina. So this tool that I just shared with you is actually very useful, not just when you see double, but for many, and not just for your eyesight, but for many, many situations in life. Okay, I see Margaret is also very happy. I never realized that our emotions are connected with our eye health. Well, in the research that I did twice at the University of Toulouse, I talked about it earlier, we discovered that for 82% of the people answering this survey, one with 450 people and the other one with 1,122, 82% of the people in the survey spontaneously mentioned that the moment when the symptoms started was a moment where they were going through a challenging situation. And to that 82%, there was a 6% on the top of people who said, no, I don't recall anything particular. My father died. I cannot really see what must have happened. I lost my job. I'm thinking about it, but it doesn't look like anything particular happened. We moved to another country. I mean, they start the sentence as if nothing had happened, and after that they mention one of the 5 most stressful events that someone can have in life, like somebody dying, changing, living in another place, divorcing, or having a child, which is a lovely thing, but also very stressful. So they were mentioning things like this. So we added them, and that makes 88%. And there was only 12% of people who really couldn't think of anything or couldn't remember of anything when they were asked spontaneously. Maybe if we had dug in, there could have been something appearing, or maybe not. They might have forgotten it, and forgetting is also a psychological mechanism of protection. So it could be that it is for 100% of people, but we would rather be on the safe side. You know, scientists, we tend to be very, we want to be reasonable and stay on the safe side of numbers and data. And so we'd rather consider that maybe the 12% there is no relationship. So at least in 88% of the cases, 88% of the time, the eyesight issues are related with some underlying emotional situation or a situation that we're living with tension in our life. Yeah, and when we look into it, there's really gifts and presents that you can find that give you insights and clarity for your eyesight and clarity for your for yourself, for your vision, for your insight. So yeah, that's why this level of vision improvement is so fascinating for me and so important and so useful for people. I'm very happy to explain this in this free masterclass, Wake Up Your Eyes, Open Your Eyes. Yeah, this eye-opening masterclass. But we also spend a lot of time digging into these ideas in the advanced program of the ClearSight Method. And again, tomorrow we're going to open registration, and tomorrow we're also going to give you video number 4, in which we're going to talk about the 6 levels from which you can improve your eyesight naturally that are scientifically proven. We'll also explain in video 4 tomorrow how you can do if you want to join. The master class, the advanced program, and all the conditions and what you're going to get and all that's included, all those details we're going to give you tomorrow. But I also want to be clear, and I want to announce this in advance. We've been doing this advanced program since 2018 in Spanish. We started in 2021 in English, and for 5 years it has had the same price. In the last months, we've had rewards and prizes, and our program has been evaluated. And in these 5 years, the program has become a lot better than it was in 2018. So the price of the advanced program is going to rise, not now, okay? For 1 more week, for this time around, you'll be able to register, if you're interested, at the price that it's had since 2018. For group number 7 in English, group number 17 in Spanish, it's going to be the same price for the last time. The next time that we will open registration in a few months, the price will have gone up. I'm telling you, because if you've been, maybe I'll register or maybe I'll wait. Well, I'm telling you so that maybe you want to take the opportunity now while you still can at the price that it has now. Okay, Sarah, Natalie, Danielle, is there something that you would like to add? Anything that you would like to say? A message that, some questions that are pending or something? Let me have a quick look. Macular holes, it's done. The squeezing emotions, we talked about it. Okay, if you are left-handed and you have lost the sight in your right eye, Alison, okay, there's some cause at the physical level, so there would be a reason for it. But if you are talking about the metaphorical emotional aspect, Alison, your right eye would be your emotional eye. So you can have a look at what has been, if there is something like that, what has been so difficult to look at that you'd rather lose your eyesight rather than seeing the world with or without that thing that is emotionally so painful. That would be my hypothesis. Okay, Phyllis was said. What if strabismus is only one eye that goes in? You are right-handed and it's your right eye that is weaker that goes in. If you're right-handed, your right eye is the yang eye, action, projects, being yang in the world, or your relationship with yang people in the world. If that is the weaker one, well, maybe you need more time to go out in the world to do the projects, or you need to evaluate things twice before going out there. Maybe you need more time. Maybe you need to be reassured, or maybe you feel guilty about that. Those would be the kind of things I would look at. And again, look at them considering the moment where they started. Is it possible to talk about having cataract as a sudden onset while also monitoring family history of glaucoma? So cataracts and glaucoma could develop quickly. And of course, again, if you have cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, retinal detachments, things like that that could make you lose your eyesight, you will want to have always an ophthalmologist following you to make sure that things are okay and following the process. But we're giving you tools here that could help you also recover from them or heal them faster. So you would have to see around the cataract, looking from this emotional perspective, what happened that the person lost interest in life, maybe suddenly. And I've known people that when the lockdown started with COVID, they developed cataracts very quickly because nothing of the things they considered fun in life was available at the time because they had to stay home. And so we had to work with them with that. And with glaucoma, you need to look at pressure. We talked about that. And you are saying, as what about cataracts? My parents had them and I don't want to have them. Well, look at how fascinating and fun your parents' life was when they developed the cataracts, when they were older, and make sure that your life is fun, fascinating, every time you are present in the present and as long as you are alive. And that will be very, very helpful. Okay, I think that we got about all the comments and questions. Again, Irina, it's such a pleasure to have you around today. Very happy. I'd like to connect with you sometime as well. And I would like again to say thank you to Natalie, Daniel, who has a very weak connection. We cannot even see him. He's in Colombia. Sarah, Natalie, Daniel, Rosa, Therese, who's behind. Ciao, ciao. And so for you, congratulations for being here, for taking the time to participate in the live number 3 of lesson number 3 of the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass. Again, tomorrow we're going to release video number 4 for lesson 4, where we're going to teach you the 6 levels of vision improvement that are scientifically proven. We've talked about the physical level a bit with the muscles and focusing, about light and energy in lesson 2, and we talked about emotions, but there's 3 more that you can use to improve your eyesight and vision. So tomorrow we're going to tell you about it, so you can use them to keep improving your vision. And if you want to go deeper with our help, with our coaching program, with our advanced program, the ClearSight Method, for a longer time, with a lot more support, with a community, with step-by-step processes and taking us with us, guiding you by the hand to achieve your results, tomorrow you will have the opportunity at last to join our advanced program, the ClearSight Method program. And I see that there's people very happy. Zora is very happy and says this was very helpful. Many thanks. Lael also, thank you very much. This was so helpful. I'm taking the information to my therapist. Yay! We love to have therapists and ophthalmologists and optometrists. We're having more and more join, and physiotherapists and all kinds of therapists of all kinds, because this information is super valuable to help clients. We also have a training for people who want to become vision educators. For now, it's only in Spanish. In the future, we may be doing it in English. But a very good first step is for people who want to go deeper to join our advanced ClearSight Method program. Okay, Alison, thank you, Ainhoa, and your team. This was invaluable. Alison, thank you very much. Okay, yes, Solman, if you're asking if you can watch this later, this has been recorded, so you can watch it in YouTube or Facebook, but the best that you could do is to make sure that you've registered to clearsightmethod.com/wakeupyoureyes so that you can take the full advantage of the full 4-part free masterclass, Wake Up Your Eyes. And I wait for you tomorrow in the video that we're going to release with lesson number 4, those 6 levels for vision improvement and how you can use them for your own benefit. So I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, or rather for you seeing me tomorrow in the video. And on Sunday, we will see each other in our Zoom room, where we'll show you around everything, everything of our universe, if you choose to register, and if you don't also, and you'll get to meet the team of the ClearSight Method and probably a number of participants of previous groups. So take care, be happy, enjoy the beauty of life, and I see you later, and you'll see me, and you'll see the world better and better. Bye-bye.